My shift had been quiet up until that call. It was just after 1 a.m., the hour where the dispatch floor feels like it's wrapped in a heavy blanket. The hum of the fluorescent lights overhead had become part of my breathing. The coffee in my paper cup was cold, but I kept sipping it anyway, more out of habit than hope. It was the kind of night where you start to notice how loud your own heartbeat sounds in the stillness. I was staring at the wall of monitors, idly glancing at the incident log, when my headset chimed. That soft little beep that's supposed to mean be alert, be ready. I pressed the line button. 911, what's your emergency? For a second, I thought no one was there. Then, I heard her, a woman's voice, thin, breathy. Please, please, you have to help me. Something about the way she said it wasn't like the usual calls. Most people start with what is happening, or where they are. But she sounded like she'd already been running for hours. Like she was saying it as her last option. Ma'am, I'm here. Tell me what's going on. She inhaled, a shaky pull of air that rattled against the microphone. There's someone in my house. That sentence. I've heard it hundreds of times over the years. But something in her voice made my skin prickle. She wasn't panicked in the way people usually are. She was controlled. Whispering, as if the wrong volume might get her killed. Okay, I said, keeping my tone even. Are you in a safe place right now? No, she whispered. He's still here. I started typing. Can you give me your address? She gave it immediately. No hesitation. It was a place on Route 9. I recognized the road. A long, two-lane stretch that ran out past the old industrial park. Rural, not many houses, and half of them sitting empty since the plant closed down years ago. Ma'am, I've got it. I'm sending officers right now. Can you tell me your name? She didn't answer that. Just a faint, shaky noise, like she'd covered the mouthpiece for a second. Then, he's in the hallway now. My eyes flicked to the CAD screen as I punched in the location. But the second the system pulled up the property file, my fingers froze. The address wasn't valid. Not just not valid as in house number off by 1. No, the database flagged it in red. Demolished. And no structure present. The notes said the property had been condemned and torn down almost 6 years ago. I double-checked the number. Triple-checked. I even asked her to repeat it. She gave the exact same one, each digit careful, like she knew she had to get it right. My mouth went dry. Ma'am, I said slowly, I just want to confirm. You're on Route 9, correct? Can you describe the outside of your home? She whispered, white siding, green shutters, the porch lights out. I stared at the screen. The demolition file showed an empty lot. Overgrown, no utilities. And yet, I could hear her. I could hear the creak of floorboards under her feet as she moved, the low groan of a door hinge somewhere in the background. I muted my mic for a second and flagged my supervisor. Got a possible system error, I said quickly. Address is marked demolished, but I have a live caller claiming active home invasion. He frowned at my screen. That place hasn't existed for years. You sure she's not drunk or confused? In my ear, the woman's voice broke in, urgent and brittle. Please, he's coming up the stairs. I unmuted. Ma'am, stay with me. Where exactly are you in the house? In the bedroom, at the end of the hall. I locked the door. A faint tap, tap, tap filtered through the line. Slow, measured, not like someone knocking, more like fingertips dragging along the wall. Is that him? I asked before I could stop myself. Yes. I dispatched the nearest unit anyway, even with the system saying the place wasn't there. Officer Drake was maybe 5 miles away. I told him to head toward the lot, see what was there. The woman was crying now, but still whispering. He knows I'm in here. I could hear it, the door rattling softly against its frame, like someone testing the lock. My own heartbeat was in my throat. How did you get this number? She asked suddenly. The question threw me. Ma'am, this is 911. You dialed us. I didn't, she said. The phone rang. I picked it up, and you were here. A shiver ran through me. The phone rang? You mean someone called you? Yes, she breathed. From your number. I kept my voice steady. Okay, I'm staying on the line. Officers are on their way. But inside, I was fighting off the strangest, coldest thought, the idea that I hadn't really answered her call. That somehow, this conversation had been waiting for me. Drake came on the radio. Dispatch. I'm on Route 9, passing the industrial park. GPS says I'm 2 minutes from the address. Copy, I said, watching my screen. Be advised, property is marked as demolished, but caller insists she's inside a residence. There was a pause. Then, dispatch. I'm at the coordinates now. It's just trees. Lots overgrown. No structure. I felt the blood drain from my face. Can you check the perimeter? I asked. Look for anything. A trailer. Shed. Something. The woman whispered, he's at the door. The line filled with the sound of slow, steady creak, wood bending under weight. The kind of sound you know is coming from just inches away. Drake's voice crackled over radio. Negative dispatch. I'm walking the property now. No building. No lights. Just weeds up to my chest. I stared at the waveform on my screen. The audio proof of her breathing, her soft sobs, the door groaning. Ma'am, can you see him? I asked. No, he's behind the door. Waiting. A long silence. Then the faintest sound, a low hum. Male. Just under the edge of hearing. She whispered, do you hear that? I did. And somehow, it made my teeth ache. Drake came back on. Dispatch. I'm getting a bad feeling out here. His voice broke into static. Say again. I pressed the mic, but the channel was just hissing noise. The woman's breathing sped up. He's at the window now. I swear I heard the faint, deliberate sound of a fingertip tracing the glass. Then, dispatch. Drake's voice returned, thin and far away. I think I see a house. White siding. Green shutters. Front porch. I snapped my head toward my supervisor. He was already shaking his head, mouthing impossible. Drake again, voice lower now. It's not on the road. It's back in the trees. But it looks wrong. I leaned closer to my mic. Wrong how? No answer. The woman whispered, he's looking at me. Her voice changed on that last word, stretched, like the syllable was pulled out of her. Then the line went dead. Just silence. Not even a disconnect tone. My timer showed the call was still active, but there was no one on the other end. Drake never responded again. We sent 2 more units to his last location. They found his cruiser on the shoulder, engine running, lights off, driver's side door wide open. No sign of him. No sign of the house. And the lot was exactly as the record showed. Empty. That night, I stayed an extra 2 hours going through the call logs. There was nothing from her number before or after. In fact, the system showed the call had come in from my own desk phone. After the call with her cut out, I didn't move for a while. The line was still active on my console, but it was nothing but silence. Not even breathing this time. Just the kind of heavy, dead air you get when a phone's been left off the hook. I kept my headset on, waiting for something, a whisper, a shuffle, even static. Nothing came. When Drake didn't respond to my check-ins, protocol kicked in. I routed 2 more units to his last GPS ping. I didn't tell them what he'd said about seeing a house. I just said his radio went out and the lot was listed as vacant. In my gut, though, I knew. They got there around 1:40 a.m. They found his cruiser exactly where the CAD map had frozen his signal, driver's door hanging open, engine idling. But no sign of him. One of the backup officers, Jensen, came over the air. Dispatch, are you sure this is Route 9? Yes, I said. Coordinates match exactly. He paused a long time before answering. Because there's no road here. At first I thought he meant the lot. What do you mean, no road? I mean the pavement stops about 2 miles back, he said. From there on, it's just dirt. And it's overgrown. Like no one's driven on it in years. I turned to my supervisor. Route 9's paved the whole way, right? He looked confused, then pulled up the DOT map on his monitor. It showed the road stretching clean and straight all the way to the county line. But Jensen didn't sound like a guy making a wrong turn. I'm standing where GPS says Drake was parked, he said. But there's no shoulder here. Just weeds up to my knees. And no lights anywhere. I stared at the blue trace of his location on my screen. It was exactly on the highway. The idea that he was standing in weeds made no sense. Then something strange happened. My console lit up. The active call line from the woman's number flashed, even though the timer on it never stopped. I pressed in. Ma'am, are you there? At first, nothing. Then a slow, uneven scrape came through my headset. The sound of someone's shoe dragging across a wooden floor. Then footsteps. Not fast, not in a hurry. Just steady, deliberate steps that seemed to echo inside whatever space she was in. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" I asked again, trying to keep my voice level. Her whisper was so faint I almost missed it. "They're on the line." Her voice wasn't panicked this time. It was almost resigned, like she'd already been dealing with it for a long time. "What do you mean?" I asked. "They can hear you," she breathed. Not just me. I felt a chill spread across my shoulders, like someone had put cold hands there. "Who can hear me?" She didn't answer, but the footsteps in the background changed. They got heavier, slower, as if the person walking knew I was listening. I motioned to my supervisor, and he patched the audio to his headset. His eyebrows pinched almost immediately. The line hissed, not like normal static, more like breath through teeth. Then the woman's voice again, shaky now. I shouldn't have answered. The footsteps stopped. She whispered, "It's right outside the door." I wanted to ask if she could hide, but something about the way she'd said it instead of he made the words catch in my throat. Jensen broke in over radio, his voice tight. "Dispatch, we're pulling back. I don't like it here. GPS is jumping all over. The road behind us, it's not there anymore. It's just woods." "What do you mean, not there?" my supervisor asked, cutting in. "I mean, we turn around to head back, and there's no path. No dirt, no pavement. Just tree trunks. Thick ones, like they've been growing for decades." I checked the satellite overlay. Still showed a normal two-lane highway. Jensen's breathing was loud over the radio. "We can't even see our headlights on the trees. It's like the light doesn't stick. We're going to." His transmission cut out mid-sentence. The woman whispered again, almost a sob now. "He's at the door." And then another sound joined the line. A second voice. It wasn't speaking, not in words I knew, but it was low and deep, vibrating the speaker inside my headset. I could feel it in my jaw more than hear it in my ears. I muted the mic and told my supervisor, "We need to disconnect this call." He nodded, but before I could end it, her whisper sharpened into something almost urgent. "Don't hang up. Please. If you do, I'll be alone with it." The sound of the door creaking came through, long and drawn out. Then the deep voice stopped, and for 3 full seconds, there was nothing. I don't know why I said it, but I asked, "Can you see it?" Her breath rattled in the mic, not all of it. The call clicked like the handset was being set down, but the timer kept running. The footsteps started again, closer, heavier. I said her name. I hadn't realized until then that she'd never told me one. The voice that answered wasn't hers. It said, clear as day, "You shouldn't be here." Then the line went dead for real. Timer reset to 0. No call record in the log. When I looked up from the console, my supervisor was already on the phone with County. He was trying to get a visual on Route 9 through the traffic cams, but every feed past mile marker 14 was black. Not offline, not frozen, just black, like someone had draped a cloth over the lens. We never got Jensen back on the radio that night. The last ping from his unit showed him exactly where the demolition lot should be. By morning, the DOT map for Route 9 had updated on its own. The highway now stopped at mile marker 14, ending in a sharp cutoff, no continuation into the woods. The lot's coordinates were now tagged access restricted. And the strangest part? When I went to pull the audio from my call with her, it wasn't in the system. Instead, the file name just read, internal, that I didn't sleep after my shift that night. Not that I could have if I tried. I stayed at the console until sunrise, even though my shift ended hours earlier. I told myself I just wanted to file the incident report while it was fresh in my mind. But the truth was, I was afraid to walk out to my car. The empty dispatch floor has a sound to it you don't notice during the day. The faint ticking of the wall clock, the whir of the old air unit, the soft click of the servers behind the glass. Usually, it's white noise. Comforting. But that night, it felt like I could hear too much. Like I was aware of every breath I took, every movement of my chair, every faint creak from somewhere in the building. I kept thinking about her voice, about the way she'd whispered there on the line. Around 6 in the morning, my supervisor came by my desk. He looked like he'd aged 10 years since midnight. "You heading out?" he asked. "In a bit," I said. "I want to pull the audio first." He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Just be careful with it." That was an odd thing to say about a routine review, but I didn't ask. When I finally opened the archive, the call was there, sort of. Instead of the usual date-time file name, it was labeled internal. No case number attached. I loaded it into the playback software and hit play. At first, it was exactly as I remembered. My voice greeting her, her shaky whisper telling me someone was in her house. But then I noticed something. About 3 seconds before I spoke each line, there was another voice. It was faint at first, buried under the hiss of the line. An older man's voice. He was repeating my words, not quite echoing, more like reading them back before I said them. I leaned closer to the headphones, scrolling back, playing it again. I'd say, "Ma'am, I'm here. Tell me what's going on." And 3 seconds earlier, his voice would murmur the exact same thing, word for word. The tone was strange. Flat. Not mocking, not emotional. Just there. I skipped ahead in the recording to when I asked her to confirm her address. Same thing, his voice ahead of mine, speaking the exact same sentence, same rhythm, same inflection. It was like he already knew what I was going to say. At first I thought maybe it was some kind of feedback issue. We've had calls where the line lags, or where a cross-channel bleed makes it sound like two people are talking at once. But that's messy, voices overlapping, cutting out. This was clean, precise, and the voice, it didn't sound like anyone I knew from the floor. I've worked with the same crew for years. I can tell them apart instantly. This man's voice was lower, slower, with that rasp that comes from either age or years of smoking. I let the playback roll, my stomach tightening. When I reached the part where she whispered there on the line, the man's voice said something different. Not my line, not an echo. He said, "You shouldn't have picked up." I froze. That line had never come through my headset during the live call. Not once. I replayed it 3 times, thinking maybe I was imagining it. But it was there, clear, deliberate. Then, a minute later in the recording, right after I asked her, "Can you see him?" the man's voice spoke again before she answered. This time it said, "He sees you." I ripped the headphones off and just sat there, staring at the waveform on screen. I didn't want to hear the rest, but I could not. I forced myself to listen through to the end. And in the final moments, when her voice changed, that drawn-out looking at me, his voice came in again, under it. "Don't follow." And then the call ended. My hands were sweating by the time I took the headphones off. I don't scare easy in this job. You can't, or it eats you alive. But this was different. This wasn't just someone out there in the dark doing something awful. This was something that already knew what I was going to say before I said it. And if it wasn't part of the call when I heard it live, where did it come from? I copied the file to a portable drive against protocol and decided I'd listen to it at home where no one else could overhear. Part of me didn't want it on our system at all. On my way out of the building, I passed Jensen's locker. His shift jacket was still hanging there. Boots underneath, exactly how he'd left them. It was like he'd just stepped out for a smoke. Only he hadn't come back. By the time I got home, the sun was up, but it felt wrong. Too pale, like someone had washed the color out of everything. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and the portable drive. I told myself I was only going to listen once more. This time I paid attention to the background, not just the voices. And that's when I heard it. Underneath everything, even the silence, there was this sound. Not static, not a hum. Breathing. Slow, steady, like whoever had the mic pressed almost against their mouth. It was there from the first second of the call to the very last. And it wasn't hers. Her breathing was quicker, uneven, panicked. This was calm, patient. In one spot, around the halfway mark, the breathing shifted, like the mic was moved closer. And right before she whispered, "He's at the door," I swear I heard the faintest exhale, like someone smiling. I stopped the file there. I couldn't go further. When I tried to eject the drive, my laptop froze. The screen stayed stuck on the waveform from the audio file. Then, for a split second, I saw it change. The waveform smoothed out, like all the jagged peaks of speech were gone. Just one long, flat breath pattern. And in the corner of the playback window, where the file name should have been, it now read, listening. I pulled the drive out manually. My laptop immediately powered off. For the rest of the day, I kept catching myself glancing at my phone, half expecting it to ring. And every time it didn't, I felt almost worse. Because now, I wasn't afraid of her voice. I was afraid of his dot. I didn't want to come in that night. It wasn't because I was tired. I'd slept most of the day. It wasn't because of the weather, even though the rain had been steady since afternoon, a slow, soaking kind that made everything smell like wet pavement. It was because of the call, the last one. I kept telling myself it was just an audio glitch, a bad recording, a misaligned track in the system. The rational explanation was always there, but it never felt big enough to hold the weight of what I'd heard. That older man's voice, speaking my words seconds before I did. It had followed me home. All evening, while brushing my teeth, while making coffee, I'd catch myself mouthing words I hadn't meant to say. Small, random things. Half a sentence, then nothing. Sometimes I'd hear the faintest murmur, like my own voice coming from the other room. I told myself I was just tired. Dispatch messes with your head if you let it. But as I sat down at my console that night, I realized my hand was shaking. I tried to laugh it off, tapping the keyboard, checking the system logs like usual. Midnight was quiet. Calls were mostly routine. A loose dog in someone's yard, a noise complaint from an apartment building downtown, an elderly woman who swore she'd heard someone knocking on her bedroom window. Normal stuff. Enough to make me think maybe tonight would be okay. Then, at 12:42 a.m., the phone lit up. Same number. The one from last night. I froze. The system chirped, waiting for me to connect. I answered. My voice, or what I thought was my voice, came out. 911. What's your emergency? But I didn't say it. I swear to God, I didn't say it. It was me. My tone, my pacing, the way I always clipped the one in 911. But it was already there, in my ear, before I could speak. There was a breath on the line. A wet, shaky kind. Then, please, it said. My voice, breaking on the word. Please, you have to send someone. I'm in the house. I don't know how I got here. I couldn't breathe. It wasn't just that it sounded like me. It was me. Every crack, every vowel. Even the way I swallowed between sentences. Someone's here, my voice said. I can hear them upstairs. Please, A sound cut through. Not speech. Just a heavy thud, like something falling. Then silence. The line went dead. My headset felt suddenly heavy, like it was pulling my head down. I took it off, staring at the console. The call log blinked. Origin, same number as before. Location, same rural address. The one from last night. Only this time, it didn't list coordinates. It just said, residence, active line. I didn't tell anyone. Not right away. I just sat there, staring at the rain streaking the glass of the dispatch window. The drops caught the glow of the monitors, running down in slow, warped lines. I watched one trail until it disappeared into the frame, feeling my heart keep pace with it. Something inside me knew that if I told anyone, they'd either laugh or look at me the way my mom used to when I'd talk about bad dreams, a kind smile with worry hidden underneath. So I took the next call, and the one after that, and I waited for the shift to end. But I couldn't shake the sound of my own voice begging me for help. By the time I got home, it was nearly 4 a.m. My apartment felt too small, too quiet. The rain hadn't stopped, and every shadow looked darker, stretched. I sat in bed with my laptop open, searching the address from the call. No listing, no recent sales. Finally, I found a blurry satellite image. A long dirt driveway disappearing into trees. At the end, a house. White siding, maybe 2 stories, a steep roof. But the image was old. The shadows were different. And for some reason, the windows looked wrong. Like the glass was darker than it should be. I didn't want to work the next night, but I went in anyway. I told myself the number wouldn't come in again. At 1:03 a.m., it did. This time, I didn't freeze. I answered, and my voice was already there. Please, please, you have to help me. I could hear rain in the background. The same steady patter I'd walked through on my way into work. I'm in the house again, my voice said, trembling. It's the same one. I can't get out. The doors won't open. Every time I try, it just... A sharp inhale. A scraping noise, like nails on wood. It just puts me back in the hallway. I grip the mic. Who is this? My real voice this time. Who are you? My voice on the line didn't answer. Instead, it whispered, "You're not going to like what's upstairs." The scraping sound got louder. It wasn't nails. It was something heavy being dragged. Then a single footstep. Slow. From above. "I have to go," my voice said. "It's coming down." And the line cut out. I called the number back. No answer. I tried running a trace. The system gave me the same address, but this time, the map view wouldn't load. Just a blank grid where the house should be. I almost told my supervisor, but something stopped me. If I said it out loud, I'd have to explain why I didn't report it the first time. And I didn't know how to explain it without sounding insane. The rest of my shift was a blur. My headset felt heavier with every call. At one point, I thought I heard faint breathing between lines, but when I checked, it was just static. That night, I dreamed about the house. It was the same as the satellite image, but closer. The paint was peeling. The porch sagged in the middle. And the front door, it had no knob. Just a dark hole where one should be. I woke up at 3:17 a.m., sweating, the sound of rain still in my ears. But it wasn't raining anymore. The third night, I didn't want to answer. I told myself I wouldn't. But at 12:59 a.m., the number came in. And I did. I wish I hadn't. This time, my voice was frantic, almost sobbing. "It's not letting me leave," it said. I think the house called you." "Not me." I swallowed. "What do you mean?" There was a pause. Then, "I hear you here. Upstairs. You're talking to someone. And you sound scared." My throat tightened. I didn't know what to say. The line went quiet, except for that dragging sound again. It was closer now. Then a faint knock, like knuckles on a wall. My voice on the line whispered, "It's going to open the door now." And I swear, in the silence that followed, I heard another voice. Low. Male. The same one from the recording glitch. It said something I couldn't understand. The line went dead. I didn't wait for my shift to end. I logged off, told them I was sick, and went straight home. But I couldn't sleep. Because in the quiet of my apartment, I thought I could hear it again. The faintest echo of my own voice, somewhere inside, whispering for help. And every time I tried to follow it, it just sounded farther away. That it was one of those nights where the building feels hollow. No chatter. No overlapping radio traffic. Just the faint hum of the lights and the distant whir of the cooling fans behind the console. Midnight had already slipped past. My coffee was half cold. I was halfway through logging an earlier call. Nothing major. A noise complaint that turned into a false alarm. When the board lit up. Line 3. Unknown number. 911. What's your emergency? For a few seconds, nothing. Just silence. Then I heard it. A deep, uneven breathing. Not gasping. Not panicked. Just heavy. Like each inhale was pulled through a throat lined with sandpaper. "Hello? Can you hear me?" The breathing didn't change. I could hear the faintest sound under it. Something dragging. A soft scrape. Like nails or wood against wood. I turned on my headset. "Sir? Ma'am? If you can't speak, tap twice on the phone or make any sound you can." The breathing grew a little faster. Then, finally, a voice. Low. Hoarse. Like it had been waiting a long time to speak. "It's right above me." I froze. The words were quiet, almost swallowed by the static. "Okay," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Can you tell me your location?" Silence. Then another scrape, louder this time. Like something shifting across a rough surface. "What's above you? Is it a person? An animal?" The breathing hitched. The voice came again, thinner this time. "Don't move." The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I glanced toward the glass wall that looked out at the rest of the dispatch floor. Only 2 other operators were working tonight. Neither seemed to notice my call. "Sir, you need to tell me where you are so I can send help," I said. There was a pause, then a faint, almost desperate whisper. I can hear it breathing, too. The scrape came again, but now I realized it wasn't coming from the phone. It was separate, closer, in the background of my own headset. "Sir, stay with me," I said quickly. My fingers flew over the keyboard, logging the call. "Do you know the address?" "No light, can't move." His voice broke into a cough. I could hear the phone rustle like he'd shifted slightly. And under that cough, a second breath. Not his. Slow. Wet. I muted my mic and signaled to the floor supervisor. She walked over, eyebrow raised, but I just pointed to my headset. When I unmuted, the man was whispering again. Please don't let it know. I tried another angle. What can you see? Any landmarks? Furniture? Anything? There was a long silence then. Right in front of my face. Close. I'm on my side. That hit me like a pinprick in the chest. Are you in a confined space? A crawl space? Under a floor? Yes. The word came out sharp, fast, like he'd been waiting for me to say it first. The scrape above him grew louder, more deliberate, something dragging its weight across boards. My supervisor leaned in close enough to hear now. Her eyes met mine, and she mouthed, "Trace it." I started the trace. It was taking longer than usual. The signal was weak, like it was bouncing around before reaching us. Sir, we're tracing your location. I need you to stay on the line. How long have you been in there? Since I woke up here. You woke up there? Yes. Were you taken there? Do you remember how? The breathing on his end deepened. Not his. The other one. Above him. He whispered so softly, I had to press the earpiece tighter to catch it. It doesn't move when I speak. Only when I breathe. My skin crawled. I thought about telling him to hold his breath, but the panic in his voice told me he'd already tried that. A dull knock came through the line. 1, 2, 3. He whimpered. It's looking for me. Finally, the trace hit. I read the coordinates on my screen and felt my stomach sink. The location was a single-family home. Vacant. Listed as condemned almost 6 years ago. I related to dispatch units, keeping my voice calm. 2 deputies and a fire unit were en route. ETA 8 minutes. Sir, help is on the way. Just keep talking to me. Don't let them open it. That stopped me. What do you mean? The scrape came again, directly over his head this time. I could almost feel the vibration through the phone. If they open it, it'll come down. The deputies radioed in. They were on scene. From their end, the house was dark. Overgrown weeds in the yard. No lights inside. No car in the driveway. I patched the lead deputy through to my line so he could hear the man's voice. Sir, can you hear me? The deputy asked. The man didn't answer. Instead, the breathing stopped. I thought maybe the line had dropped. But then I heard it. Not the man. The other one. Breathing. Directly into the phone. Deep. Slow. Wet. The deputy's voice crackled over the radio. Dispatch, we're inside. Splitting to search. I tried to get the man back. Sir, if you can hear me, tap twice. Nothing. The deputies moved through the house, calling out. Their footsteps echoed in my headset, and somewhere in between them, I heard another sound crawling. Dispatch, we found an access panel to the crawl space, one deputy said. Hold on, I cut in fast. He said, but it was too late. I heard the panel creak open. There was a pause. Then one of the deputies swore under his breath. Dispatch, there's nothing here. Crawl space is empty. Empty. I checked the line again. The call was still connected. Then the man's voice came back, but it was so quiet I almost thought I imagined it. You opened it. A crash exploded through the deputy's radio, shouting, something hitting the floor, the sound of something scraping violently. The line in my ear erupted with both the man's screaming and the second breath, loud now, impossibly close. And then silence. The call disconnected. The deputies never found him. They searched every inch of that crawl space, every wall, every corner of the house. Nothing. But later, when they played back the body cam footage, you could hear it too, that breathing, and the sound of something dragging itself away that I didn't want to take the call at first. It was one of those nights where the air in the dispatch room feels thick, like the building itself is tired. I've been staring at the blinking lines for hours, answering routine emergencies, domestic disputes, false alarms, drunk drivers. Nothing unusual. Then the call came in. The line didn't open with words. Just this strange, brittle sound. Breathing, but not the kind you hear from someone running or crying. It was slow, careful, like whoever was on the other end was trying not to be heard by something else. I said my standard line, the one drilled into me by months of training. 911. What's your emergency? The breathing didn't stop. There was this faint scraping under it, like nails against wood, but muffled, almost buried under layers of something. Sir? Ma'am? Can you speak? I asked again. Finally, after what felt like a full minute, a man's voice came through. Low, shaking. It sits right above me. That was it. No name. No context. Just that sentence. I leaned forward in my chair, gripping my headset like that would somehow pull more sound from the line. Can you tell me what's above you? A pause. The scrape got louder, like it had moved closer to whatever was holding the phone. Then, with a rasp that made my throat go dry, he whispered, "She's crawling." I glanced at the other dispatcher on shift, but he had his own call. I mouthed crawling to him, but he just frowned and went back to typing. I asked for his address. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to log it. He gave it without hesitation, 79 Brooks Avenue. I typed it in. Nothing. I double-checked, changed the format, added the street suffix. Still nothing. Our system would at least flag an unincorporated area, but it was like the street didn't exist. Sir, I need to confirm. She's right over me now, he cut in. His voice was breaking, but he wasn't crying. He sounded fixed, like his whole body was frozen except for his mouth. I could hear something behind him. Not in front, not from the phone speaker, but directly above him in the space, wherever he was. It was a soft, repetitive thud, spaced out in an unnatural rhythm. Not footsteps. Not quite. I pressed him again. What city are you in? Another pause. Yours, he said. It was a weird answer. Defensive, almost. I tried again, keeping my tone calm, professional, though my stomach was starting to knot. Are you in a house? An apartment? Where are you located? His breathing got shallow. It's small. I can't move much. It's so close now. That word, small, shifted everything in my head. A confined space. Maybe a crawl space. Maybe the attic. Or inside a wall. I asked, are you hiding? A sharp inhale came through the line. Then, very slowly, she's not moving anymore. She's listening. I didn't even realize I'd stopped typing until the silence in my headset grew heavy. There's a certain point in a call where you stop feeling like you're talking to someone far away and start feeling like you're with them. I felt it then. I could almost imagine the dark around him. I tried to keep him focused. Sir, do you know her? Can you tell me who she is? He didn't answer right away. The sound above him, the scrape, the soft thuds, they came back. Closer. Then, barely audible. She's smiling. My hand clenched the pen on my desk until it snapped. Sir, I need you to stay on the line while we figure out where you are. Can you describe what's around you? There was a soft shuffle from him. Fabric moving. A phone mic rubbing against clothing. Then his voice again, tighter, like he didn't want to disturb the air. Wood. And pipes. I can see her fingers through the cracks. I actually felt my throat close up at that. I imagined pale fingers forcing through slats of wood in the dark. My skin prickled. I turned to my partner and covered my mic 79 Brooks Avenue. You get anything? He typed, shook his head. Doesn't exist. Could be old? Torn down. No record. I went back to the call. Sir, is there another address nearby? A landmark. His answer made no sense. It's the only place left. The line dipped into static for a second. When it cleared, the scraping had changed. It was faster now, almost excited. She's coming down, he whispered. I swallowed hard. You need to get out of there. I can't. Why not? His breathing was sharp, almost panicked now. She's in the way. The static hissed again, but this time it lingered, curling around his words. I could still make out movement. The shifting of wood, a faint wet sound like something sliding over a beam. I pressed again, my voice low, urgent. Listen to me. We're trying to get someone to you. I just need one more detail. Anything. Street. Town. Crossroad. The next thing he said, I didn't understand at first. You already know where it is. I don't. That address isn't in our system. There was a beat of silence. Then his voice changed, not in tone exactly, but in weight. Like something inside him had decided to stop pretending. It's always been here. I felt cold all over. The way he said here didn't sound like he meant a place. The scraping stopped completely. The quiet was worse. Sir, are you still there? Yes, he breathed. I waited for him to say more. He didn't. Just breathing. And under it, something else, so faint I had to push the headset against my ear. Another breath. Not his. Higher. Wet, like the air was thick in its lungs. The hair on my arm stood up. Sir, is she above you now? He answered so softly I barely caught it. No, she's behind you. The line went dead. I stared at the phone display. It showed the call had lasted exactly 7 minutes and 22 seconds. I hit redial. Nothing. Just a flat, instant disconnect. My partner asked what happened. I didn't answer him. I just sat there, headset still on, staring at the wall across from my desk. I know it's impossible. I know there's no way for a voice on the other end to know what's behind me in a locked, empty dispatch room. But I swear, Salah, in that second before I turn around, I could feel breath on my neck. The call stayed open longer than anything I'd ever heard before. 40 minutes, give or take. 40 minutes of nothing but noises. When I first got the call, my gut told me it was bad, worse than usual. There was no background noise except for the ragged breathing and those faint scraping sounds. But those sounds started to grow, slow, deliberate. I routed units fast, 3 patrol cars, fire rescue. Even the city's tactical team was alerted. They drove out with flashlights and radios, calling in as they searched. But the address, it still didn't exist. Our GPS showed nothing. The system returned empty every time, like the place was hidden. The dispatcher screen was a blur of red warnings. Location unknown, signal weak, trace failure. I stayed glued to my headset, my fingers barely able to keep up with typing updates and logging everything. The breathing grew shallower as the minutes passed. But the other noises, they got louder. At first, it was just faint nail tapping, slow measured, like someone counting seconds. Then it became dragging, a scraping across wood or maybe concrete. Heavy wet. Sometimes I thought I heard a voice, but I couldn't tell if it was the caller or something else. Don't open it, the voice said once. I jumped in my seat. Sir? What do you mean? What's it? Only silence answered. My supervisor looked over. His eyes were tight with worry. You good? I forced a nod. I need to stay on the line. They're not letting me hang up. The officers kept checking in from outside the supposed location. Nothing. No house. No driveway. No yard. One deputy's radio crackled, voice strained. Dispatch, this is Unit 12. We're walking the perimeter. It's all forest out here. No roads, no buildings. I swallowed hard. How is this possible? I muttered. Then the scraping got worse, louder, closer. I swear it felt like the sound was moving inside the room with me, like it was somewhere behind the glass wall or under the floor. I looked around the dispatch center. The other operators were focused on their calls, oblivious. I told myself it was stress, nerves, but my skin was crawling. The tapping returned, faster now. 2 taps, pause, 3 taps. Like Morse code, except I didn't understand what it meant. I asked the caller if he could speak. No answer, just that dragging noise again. The line stayed open. I didn't hang up. I couldn't. Then my headset buzzed. A faint voice, a whisper layered under everything. I see you. I froze. The hairs on my arms stood up. I whispered into my mic. Who's there? Speak. No answer. Then the dragging stopped. The silence was worse. The officers reported no sign of the caller, no sign of any building. No footprints. No cell signal from the area. Yet the call didn't drop. It stayed alive on the line, with nothing but those noises. I tried everything, restarting the system, disconnecting and reconnecting. Nothing worked. It was like the line was anchored to something I couldn't find. I asked myself, was the caller even real? The entire floor seemed to hold its breath that night. I watched the clock tick past the 40-minute mark. By then, my fingers were numb, my throat dry, and still the nails tapped. And still, something dragged just beyond my hearing. And I knew, wherever he was, wherever she was crawling, the walls were too thick to get through. And the only way the voice could reach me was through the thin, brittle thread of this phone line. The line went silent. The kind of silence that twists your stomach. After all that scraping, breathing, and that faint voice whispering just out of reach, I thought the call was finally over. I waited. Nothing. My headset felt heavier than ever, like gravity had doubled just for me. And then, out of nowhere, a voice came on the line. Soft, calm, female. Hello. I froze. The word was clear, but it wasn't the man's voice anymore. It wasn't the ragged, terrified breathing I'd been listening to for nearly an hour. "Hello," I said, voice cracking. "Do you know me?" she asked. The silence behind her words was thick. I wanted to ask who she was, how she got the line, but my throat felt dry and heavy. Instead, I said, "Who is this?" She chuckled, a light, almost musical sound that sent a shiver down my spine. "You already know." I swallowed hard. "I don't." Another pause. Then she said my name. My real name. Not the dispatcher, not the radio call sign. My name. Spoken clearly, like she had been waiting to say it. I wasn't sure if I was breathing. "Why are you calling me?" "Because I'm still here." The line buzzed faintly, like electricity humming through old wires. I glanced around the room. Other dispatchers were focused on their calls, but I could feel the room closing in. "I'm not who you think." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm what you left behind." My mind spiraled. Was this a prank? A glitch? A sick joke from someone listening in? But the calm in her voice wasn't mockery. It was something colder. "Why?" I managed. "Why are you here?" She laughed again, low and slow. "Because you opened the door." I didn't say anything. The line crackled, then she whispered. "She's not the only one." I wanted to hang up, to shut it all down, but my hands wouldn't move. "Who else?" There was a soft scraping. Not nails this time. Something dragging slowly across cold floorboards. Waiting. My heartbeat thundered. I felt it in my ears, in my chest. "Where?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. "Behind you." I spun around. Nothing but empty desks and blinking monitors. My headset felt like it was buzzing with static. I turned back to the phone. Her voice was gone. The line was dead. And I was alone. The night shift was dragging on, like it always does, that endless stretch of quiet boredom broken up by the occasional emergency. Usually, those calls come with the usual city noise, sirens, barking dogs, slurred voices shouting over radios. But this one wasn't like that. It came in from a number I didn't recognize, a man's voice, frantic and shaky, calling from somewhere out on County Line Road. 911. "What's your emergency?" I said, keeping my voice steady, though a knot was already tightening in my chest. There was a long pause. Then he said, breathless, "There's no power out here. No lights. Nothing. Just shadows." I frowned, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Shadows? What kind of call was this? "Sir, can you tell me exactly where you are?" He swallowed hard. "County Line Road. Rural stretch near the old mill. No cell signal, barely any traffic. And they're watching." I blinked. "Who's watching, sir?" There was a sharp intake of breath. "The shadows. Standing still along the tree line. Just watching." I tried to keep the skepticism out of my voice, but it was hard. "We'll send someone out. Can you stay on the line?" "Yes. Please." His voice trembled. "They're moving now. Not walking, just gliding. Too dark to see faces." I tapped the screen, dispatching rural patrol units and an ambulance nearby, just in case. The man's breathing grew ragged. "It's so quiet. No animals, no wind. Just those things. They don't make a sound." I asked if he could describe what they looked like. He hesitated, then whispered, "Like shadows with shape, like something trying to be people, but missing something." The cold crept over me, even through the headset. "Sir, are you in your car?" "Yeah, but I don't want to turn on the headlights. They'll see me." I could hear the faint rustle of leaves and the crunch of gravel under his feet as he shifted. "Stay calm," I said, "help's on the way." "Do you have a flashlight?" "No. Phone's dead, and the car battery's weak." The silence on the line stretched, broken only by his breathing and distant sounds I couldn't place. Suddenly, his voice dropped to a terrified whisper. "They're coming closer." "Sir, are you inside the car?" "Yes." I could hear the soft creak of the door opening. "Don't get out." But then there was a sound that stopped me cold, a low, dragging scrape against the side of the car. "Shit, they're here." His voice cracked as something heavy hit the roof. I told him to lock the doors. He was quiet for a moment, then a slow, deliberate tapping started on the driver's window. Tap, tap, tap. My heart was pounding. "Sir," I urged. He whispered, voice trembling, "They're watching me through the glass." The tapping turned to scratching. I told him help was 5 minutes out. Then the line went dead. I sat there, headset tight against my ear, waiting for a callback. But no call came. The silence in the dispatch room was suffocating. I kept the radio open, hoping to hear something from the units searching that stretch of road. Minutes passed. Then an officer reported back. "Dispatch, we found his car. Doors locked. No sign of the caller. No footprints. No disturbances in the woods. Just a car, sitting cold in the dark. And a silence that felt like it was watching back. The seconds after the line went dead felt endless. I kept my headset on, fingers shaking over the keyboard, praying for a callback that never came. I switched channels, trying to reach the patrol units closest to County Line Road. Static. Dead air. I tapped harder, rotating through frequencies. Every channel was silence or distorted noise, like someone had cut the radio feed. "Supervisor," I called quietly, voice shaky. "We can't reach any units near that area." He looked up from his screen, face tight. "Try the backup channel." I did. Same thing. No response. Then the phone rang again, the same number. I grabbed the headset, heart pounding. 911, what's your emergency? The man's voice was ragged. Terrified. "They're closer." I swallowed, trying to keep calm. "Sir, where are you exactly?" "No idea. I'm still on the road. I haven't moved." I tried to get a bead on his location, but the GPS trace was lost again. "Sir, can you describe what you're seeing?" He gasped. "Shadows. They're everywhere now. On the trees, the ground, and the air. Watching." My fingers trembled. "Help is on the way. Just stay calm." Suddenly, his voice rose into a scream, raw, desperate. "They're right here." I felt my stomach knot. "Sir? What's happening?" The line cracked. More static. Then silence. I switched channels again, desperation building. No response. I said softly. The radios around me were dead. No chatter, no calls, no crackle. Just the dull hum of the dispatch center. I looked at the clock. 5 minutes had passed since the last contact. The man called back again, voice barely audible. "They're moving closer. I can't see them, but I can hear them breathing." I leaned in, trying to hear past the static. A slow, wet breathing, not his. "Sir, stay on the line," I urged. But the line went dead again. My hand shook. The radios were silent. I thought about the stories, the calls that vanished, the units lost. And I wondered, was I next? I remember the moment he switched on his phone flashlight like it was yesterday. The kind of memory that sticks, no matter how much you try to shake it off. The line was crackling, signal cutting in and out like the connection was fighting against something. The man's voice was breathless, strained, barely steady. "There, right there," he whispered. I held my breath. "Where exactly, sir? Can you describe them?" There was a faint clicking sound. Then his voice again, tight and trembling. "Tall, thin, like shadows stretched too long." I imagined figures leaning out from the darkness, too thin to be human, but somehow moving with unnatural grace. Then, suddenly, a flash, a glimpse of light piercing through the black. "Wait," he said, voice sharper now. "I see teeth." "Teeth?" I swallowed hard. My hands clenched the headset like it would keep the voice anchored to reality. Their mouths, too wide, like they're grinning all the time. Too many teeth. The flashlight flickered. The line buzzed with static. The man gasped. "My phone battery's dying. It feels like something's draining it." The signal weakened, dropping parts of his words in his silence. I tried to hold on, kept asking questions, desperate to know more. But the lights dimmed, the phone's glow faded. The last thing I heard before the line went dead was a low hiss. Not human, not quite animal, but close enough to make my skin crawl. Then silence. I sat frozen, headset pressed tight to my ear, feeling the cold weight of that silent room close around me. And I knew, whatever was out there, those figures, those faces, they were real. And they were hungry. The moment the man whispered those words, "They've opened the car door," everything inside me froze. It was like hearing a shadow slide right next to you in total silence. The kind of sound you can't catch, but you know it's there. He didn't scream. He didn't shout. He just whispered, voice trembling like a cold breath on the back of my neck. They didn't make a sound. The line crackled softly. Static fuzzed the edges of his voice, like the darkness itself was eating the signal. "Sir, are you still there?" I kept my voice low, trying not to sound afraid, but my heart was pounding like a hammer against my ribs. A long silence answered. Then, a faint scrape. I imagined his hand trembling on the steering wheel, his breath hitching as he realized he wasn't alone. Then the whisper again. They're inside. I wanted to tell him to get out, to run, but I didn't know where he could run to. The line went wild for a moment. Static crackled louder, then the connection dipped in and out. I kept my headset on, refusing to hang up. Minutes turned into hours. The call didn't drop, even though all I could hear was that white noise, the constant static hum. For 9 hours. 9 hours of silence that was louder than any scream. I sat there, glued to the headset, running through every scenario in my head, unable to shake the feeling that I was listening to something I wasn't meant to hear. My fingers hovered over the buttons, torn between disconnecting and staying tethered to whatever that was. When my supervisor finally came over, he saw the strain on my face, the pale look in my eyes. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded slowly. The line, it's still open. He frowned, peered at the screen. "Dispatch, try ending the call." I hit the button, but the call stayed active. No voice, no sound, just a buzzing, like static electricity in the air. For hours after, I kept checking. The call never ended. It was like something was holding it open from the other side, waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those thin, dark figures with too wide mouths grinning in the dark. And I heard the whisper again. They're inside. It was one of those nights where everything felt still. The kind of quiet that presses on your ears and makes shadows grow darker than usual. I was halfway through my shift when the phone rang, an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. I answered, voice calm but ready. 911, what's your emergency? The man on the other end spoke softly. Not panicked, not frantic, just calm. Do you see her? He asked. I frowned. Who? The woman on the median. The one standing there. I blinked. Sir, I haven't had any calls about a woman on a median. There was a pause, then a slow, deliberate breath. Are you sure? Positive. No reports. His voice lowered. I've driven past there 3 nights in a row. She's always there. Standing. Watching. I try to keep my tone neutral. Where exactly is this median? County Road, near the old gas station. I checked the logs. No calls, no reports from nearby units. Nothing unusual. Do you have a description? Tall, pale, hair long, hanging down. No face. Just a shadow where her face should be. I swallowed hard. The kind of image you want to forget. Sir, can you tell me what time you usually see her? Just past midnight. Every night. Same spot. I typed notes, tried to sound professional even though a chill ran down my spine. Has anyone else mentioned this woman to you? No. I asked around. No one sees her. Just me. I felt a flicker of something. Doubt? Paranoia? Do you think maybe it's a trick of the light? Or maybe someone playing a prank? He was quiet. Then he said, I don't know, but it feels real. The line was still. I heard a car pass outside. The low hum of tires on asphalt. Sir, I'm going to send a patrol to check the area, I said. He hesitated. Please, but be careful. She doesn't like being watched. My skin crawled at that last sentence. The call ended. I sat back in my chair, staring at the blinking lights on my console. I wanted to tell myself it was nothing, just a man's imagination playing tricks in the night. But deep down, I wondered if maybe I'd seen her too, that I didn't expect the call to come back so soon. It was the same man. His voice was quieter this time, more hesitant. He started describing her. The dress, he said, it's pale. Like old lace, stained with dirt. I pictured it in my mind, the kind of dress you'd find in an attic forgotten and yellow by time. Her hair, he whispered, long wet, hanging heavy over her face. He paused. There's something wrong about the way she stands. Like she's waiting for something. Or someone. I asked him to tell me more. Her head's tilted to the side, he said, voice tight. Just slightly, but it's enough to make her look unnatural. I scribbled notes as his words painted a clearer image. He spoke of the silence around her, the way even the wind seemed to avoid that spot. Hours later, calls started coming in. Different people, different parts of town. They all said the same thing. A woman. Pale dress. Long hair, dripping wet, standing still, watching. The dread settled heavier on my chest. I tried to rationalize. A homeless woman? A trick of the streetlights? But the descriptions were too consistent, too detailed. I kept thinking about that tilt of the head, the stillness, and the way she seemed to be waiting. I looked out the dispatch window that night. The streets were empty. But somewhere out there, she was standing, still, watching. The phone rang again just past midnight. I wasn't surprised. The same calm voice on the other end, but this time, there was something different, a sharp edge of fear barely held back. "She's outside my apartment window," he said, barely above a whisper. I sat straighter. "Can you see her clearly?" "Yes," he said, still standing, still watching. "She hasn't moved all night." I asked him to describe her again, hoping for any new detail. "The dress," he repeated softly, "still pale, though it looks dirtier somehow. Her hair is long, wet, like it's been hanging in the rain." A shiver ran down my spine, even through the phone. "And her eyes?" He swallowed audibly. "That's the worst part. She doesn't blink." The image burned in my mind. A pale woman, unmoving, watching through a window, eyes fixed like dark mirrors refusing to close. He said his breath caught every time he looked at her, like she was waiting for him to notice. I tried to keep my voice steady, but my fingers trembled as I typed notes. "Are you safe inside?" "Yes." "Good. Stay there. Do not open the window or door." He nodded, though I couldn't see him. I asked if he'd seen her anywhere else tonight. "No, only here." Then came the silence. I could almost hear the weight of the moment stretching between us. "She's outside," he whispered again. And then, the sound of something tapping against glass, soft, deliberate. My heart caught. "Sir? Are you there?" The line was dead. I sat there, the room suddenly colder, the shadows at the edges of my vision deeper than before. I looked out my own window. Nothing. But I knew, somewhere, she was still standing, watching, waiting, not blinking. The next day, I found myself staring at the flickering screen in front of me, the glow of the monitor too bright for the gloom of the dispatch center. A supervisor had handed me the street cam footage, the intersection where the man said he kept seeing her. At first, the screen was just empty streets, the usual late-night silence of a city that never truly sleeps but sometimes pretends to. Then, out of the corner, there she was, standing on the median. Pale dress, hair hanging wet and heavy. Still, motionless. My heart started a race. I leaned closer, eyes straining to catch every detail. She didn't move. Not a blink, not a breath visible on camera. The longer I stared, the heavier the room felt, as if the shadows behind me were drawing closer. Then it happened. The moment I focused, she slowly turned. Her face, blank and pale, lifted, and she looked right at the camera, right at me. I jerked back, breath caught in my throat. Her eyes were black voids, no whites, no pupils. It was like staring into a bottomless well of nothing. For a split second, I was sure she saw me, and then she was gone. The footage cut back to empty streets, as if she had never been there. I felt cold sweat prickling down my neck. I replayed it, again and again. Each time, the same moment, the turn, the look. It was like she was waiting for someone to notice, like she was calling me out. I thought about that man's words, about the way she never blinked, never moved. And now this. It wasn't just a shadow or a trick of the light. She was real, and she was watching. The line between the stories we tell and the things we see is thinner than I ever thought. Sometimes it breaks, and you find yourself staring into eyes that should not exist. The call came in like any other night, the soft ringing slicing through the hum of the dispatch center. I answered with my usual calm, 911, what's your emergency? Then I heard it, my own voice, clear, familiar, but wrong. Hello, it said, but it wasn't me. It was the voice I used every night, the voice I'd trained to sound steady and calm. Except this one was colder, sharper, like it had no business speaking those words. I froze for a moment, heart pounding. Who is this? I asked, trying to steady my breathing. The voice laughed. A low, dry sound. I'm the real one, it said. My pulse hit my throat. What do you mean? I forced the words out. I'm you, it whispered, the one who should be answering these calls. I shook my head, fingers trembling on the headset. Who is this? What do you want? The voice was patient now, almost mocking. I'm the one behind the line, the one you never hear. I've been waiting. I felt a cold weight settle in my chest, like the room had grown darker without me noticing. Sir, I'm dispatch. This line is for emergencies. Emergency, it echoed, isn't it? A chill ran down my spine. It repeated my own words back to me, but with a twisted edge, like a distorted mirror. I'm the one who should be listening, not you. I wanted to hang up, but the line held firm. The voice kept going, slipping into memories I hadn't shared, details only I would know. My sister's birthday. The smell of rain on the station's concrete floor. I could feel it crawling inside my mind, trying to replace me. Who are you? I whispered. The voice smiled. I'm you. The one you're not ready to face. Then the line went dead. I sat back, heart hammering, sweat cold on my forehead. For a long time, I stared at the phone, wondering if the real me was still out there, or if I'd already been replaced. The night was thick with static and silence, but then the phones lit up, 2 calls coming in at the exact same time. I looked at the console, puzzled. Both calls showed the same operator ID, mine. It was impossible. I answered the first line, voice steady despite the sudden knot in my stomach. 911, what's your emergency? A calm, familiar voice responded, my own voice again. Then the other line rang, and I picked it up just as quickly. Same voice, same words. Both lines open at once, 2 versions of me talking at the same time. One calm, professional. The other, cold, clipped sharper. Who is this? I asked the cold one, heart racing. I'm you, it said. The one who belongs on this line. The other me began taking calls like nothing was wrong, perfectly calm. I tried to focus on my side, but the other voice, the mimic, started repeating things I hadn't said, memories I hadn't shared. It was like a shadow, slipping into my role, trying to replace me. I could feel my grip slipping. Was I still the one answering the calls? Or was I the one being pushed out? For nearly an hour, the 2 of us held that strange, impossible conversation across the lines. Then the mimic laughed low, dark, and the call ended. I was left alone in the silent dispatch center, questioning what was real. If the voice on the other end could sound just like me, could it be me too? Or had something else taken my place? I'd always thought the dispatch center was just a place. Rows of desks, blinking consoles, the low murmur of voices and static. But that night it became something else. It felt like it was watching me. The mimic's voice came through the line again, but this time it wasn't just repeating words or memories. It was describing me. Your hands resting on the desk. It said softly, almost mockingly. I froze, fingers stiff on the mouse. How do you know that? I whispered. Because I'm here, it replied. My breath caught. The room suddenly felt colder. It described the dull hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, the faint smell of stale coffee lingering in the air. It told me what song was playing quietly through the speakers, the one I'd been humming earlier. Your eyes are tired, it said. You haven't blinked in too long. I blinked hard. My heart pounded in my ears. Stop, I said. Who are you? I'm you. It said again, voice calm but chilling. But the part you don't want to see. It detailed every movement, how I adjusted my headset, how I sighed, how I rubbed the back of my neck. The line crackled, then went quiet for a moment. Then it whispered, I'm closer than you think. I glanced around the empty room, suddenly aware of every shadow in every corner. Was it just a voice on the line? Or was someone, really here? The flicker of the monitors, the low buzz of the computers, all felt different, like the room itself was alive, watching me. I sat frozen, caught between fear and disbelief, trapped in a moment that stretched too long. The mimic's voice returned, softer now. Soon, you won't remember being here. Not really. I wanted to scream, to disconnect, to run, but I stayed, because part of me was already slipping away. The night had stretched thin, hours passed like heavy fog pressing down on the dispatch center. The mimic's voice came through again, low and coaxing. Hang up, it said, so I can come back. I hesitated, heart hammering against my ribs. Why? I whispered, voice shaking. Because I'm waiting. Always waiting. I gripped the headset tighter, fighting the urge to disconnect. The line clicked. Silence. But then breathing. Heavy, ragged. Right in my ear. I froze. Not through the phone. Through my own headset. My breath caught in my throat as the sound filled my ears, slow and deliberate. Was it the mimic? Or was it me? The room felt colder, darker. I tried to pull the headset off, but it was like it was stuck. The breathing continued, closer now, almost inside my own mind. Which one is ending the call? The voice whispered, barely audible but clear. My hands trembled, fingers fumbling over the controls. I glanced around the empty room. Shadows seemed to twitch just out of sight. Was I still here? Or was the mimic already taking over? The breathing slowed, then stopped. The silence was worse than any noise. I sat there, headset in hand, wondering if I was still myself, or just an echo waiting to be replaced. I was halfway through the shift when the call came in. The fire alarm was urgent. A house blazing on Elm Street. The usual chaos, but something about it stuck in my head. A frantic voice, a man shouting for help. The details were clear, his address, the fire spreading fast, someone trapped inside. We scrambled units, radio crackling with orders. 15 minutes later, the phone rang again. Same number, same frantic man, same exact words. I froze. I checked the timestamp. The calls were 15 minutes apart, but every detail, every word was identical. I played the recordings side by side. There was no difference. No background noise change, no shift in tone. Just the same desperate plea. I told my supervisor. She frowned, checking with patrol and fire units. They were already on scene. No new call should be possible. The clock on the wall ticked loud in the silence. Then the calls started coming again, one after another. Every 15 minutes. Same voice. Same words. The shift stretched out before me, endless. Each repetition like a broken record spinning into my mind. I started doubting my senses. Was time looping? Was I trapped in some nightmare where this call would never end? I looked at the wall clock, stuck at 3:07 a.m. It didn't move. No one else seemed to notice. I felt the walls closing in. The line kept ringing, and the fire kept burning. The calls kept coming, every 15 minutes like clockwork. And every time, the same fire. Same house. Same desperate man screaming for help. The fire crews finally made it back to the station just as the second call came through. I could hear their tired footsteps echoing down the hall before the dispatcher on duty called in. Units confirm scene status. The officer's voice crackled back, low and steady. We're at the address. House is fully involved. Fire's the same as before. I felt my stomach twist. What do you mean? Same as before? I asked. Same people inside. The officer replied. Same positions. Same everything. It didn't make sense. How could the fire be the same? How could the people still be trapped? We ran the address through the system again, double-checked the records. Nothing had changed. I sat at my desk, watching the clock, stuck at 3:07 a.m. The world outside the dispatch center seemed frozen. Outside the window, the streetlights flickered, but time didn't move forward. I could hear the low crackling of the fire on the radio, but it was like watching a loop tape. The men on scene described the smoke and flames as if they'd been trapped in a nightmare they couldn't wake from. Their voices trembled, their breaths shaky. I felt it too, the weight of endless repetition pressing down like a fog. It wasn't just a fire anymore. It was a trap, a loop, and we were stuck inside it. The line rang again, the same voice screaming for help, and the clock didn't move. The clock on the wall never changed. Not by a second. 3:07 a.m. It hung there, silent, mocking. No matter how long I stared, no matter how many calls came in, the hand stayed frozen. The same calls, the same desperate voice screaming for help. Every 15 minutes. Each time I looked at the clock, the minute hand remained pinned in place, stubborn as a ghost refusing to move on. I blinked, hoping I was imagining it. But it was real. Every clock in the dispatch center was stuck. Wristwatches, wall clocks, even the little digital ones on our phones refused to tick forward. I felt like I was trapped inside a photograph that never developed. Outside, the world should have been moving. But inside, time was broken. Calls kept pouring in, looping like an endless nightmare. I answered each one, my voice steady on the surface, but trembling inside. 911, what's your emergency? The man's voice broke through the line, panicked and raw. Fire, trapped inside, please. But every time it was the same. The same words, the same panic. No change. I glanced around the room. Colleagues moved sluggishly, like puppets on invisible strings. Their eyes glazed over, haunted. The radio crackled and hissed, a soundtrack to the timeless hell we were trapped in. I tried to focus on the calls, to break the loop. But with every ring, the weight grew heavier. My chest tightened, breath shallow and fast. I caught myself checking the clock again and again, as if willing it to change. But it never did. Minutes stretched to hours. Or maybe seconds. I couldn't tell anymore. The lines between now and forever blurred. The fire outside our speakers raged endlessly. No one ever escaped. And I sat in the middle of it all, a silent witness to the moment frozen in time. 3:07 a.m. The hour that never ended. The night had stretched on so long I lost track of how many hours had passed. Or maybe there were no hours anymore. The clock still read 3:07 a.m. And outside, the sun refused to rise. I stared out the window at the endless black sky, empty and still. No dawn, no light, only the dull hum of the dispatch center, buzzing like some forgotten machine left to run endlessly. Then I noticed the board, the call log screen. It flickered on, lighting up with names. But they weren't the usual emergencies. The calls were coming from inside the dispatch room itself. From empty desks. From silent phones. I clicked on one. Static, and then a faint whisper. My own voice. Help, please. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I called out to the others, but they were gone. Or maybe they'd never been here. The lines kept ringing. I answered another. This time, it was laughter. Soft, cold, distant, but unmistakably real. I tried to stand, to move, but it was like the floor beneath me was melting away. I was sinking, trapped in an endless loop of calls that never ended. And the night was forever. I whispered to myself, is this my shift now? Forever. The phones kept ringing. The board kept lighting up. And somewhere, in the dark, the voice waited. Waiting for me to answer again.